Good afternoon, one and all present here. Once again, welcome you all for this FDP of day 3. Before starting the session, I would like to request all the participants to mute their audios and turn off the videos of their gadgets to have better bandwidth and clarity. Please don't present the screen in between. It is privilege to introduce Dr. M.S. Sriraj, the second resource person of the day. Dr. M.S. Sriraj is an assistant professor in the Department of Mathematics at Vidyavardhaka College of Engineering, Mysore. He is graduated from University of Mysore and completed his PhD from University of Mysore. He is more than a decade experience in teaching and research. His area of interest is discrete mathematics and number theory. He is the member of academic bodies like Life Member of Ramanujan Mathematical Society, Life Member of Indian Society for Technical Education, and the Life Member of Academic Discrete Mathematics. He has organized and conducted various international and national conferences, workshops, and FDPs for the faculties and research scholars. He has more than 20 publications to his credit, of which many are indexed in Web of Science and Scopus. He has also presented papers in various national and international conferences and seminars. He is recognized as a guide under VTU. Under his guidance, there are 5 scholars are pursuing PhD currently. In today's session, Sir will be giving insights on nature of parametric and non-parametric data. We are honored to have you here today, sir, for this FDP. Now I request Dr. Sriraj to take over the.
Thank you very much, sir. Hello, is it audible?
Yes,
for everyone?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir. A very good afternoon to all of you. I would like to thank the organizers for giving me an opportunity to share my views on testing of hypothesis. So my today's topic is testing of hypothesis. So my outline goes like this: abstract, introduction, hypothesis testing, conclusion and references. So what is the abstract? What I am going to speak about? It is hypothesis.
Sriraj,
Testing
sir.
of, yes, sir.
Sorry for interruption. Are you
Okay.
presenting the slide, sir?
Yes, sir.
It is not visible. That's why I am asking.
1 minute.
Yeah.
Screen sharing. Take my phone. Share.
Visible, sir, now? Hello?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now
Yeah,
it's visible
now, sir. Visible.
Okay, fine. Fine, sir. So my today's topic is on testing of hypothesis. So the outline goes like this: it has abstract, introduction, hypothesis testing, and conclusion, and along with the references. Abstract goes like this: hypothesis, testing of hypothesis, parametric tests, and non-parametric tests. So what is hypothesis? It is the assumption at the initial context which may be true or not true. We do not know. So we are going to make an assumption. Whatever the assumption, we call it as hypothesis. Types of hypothesis, there are 2 types. One is the null hypothesis. The other one is the complementary hypothesis. The null hypothesis is generally denoted by H0. It is the assumption formulated for rejection. You're going to formulate in such a way you're going to reject the hypothesis. So, for example, how to frame the null hypothesis. So, if we want to show that the sales and advertisement expenditure are related, so there are 2 parameters. One is sales and advertisement expenditure. We are going to formulate the hypothesis that they are not related. So we assume that first the data that sales and advertisement expenditure are not related, and we are going to reject those hypotheses. So finally we accept that it is related. So that is all about the framing of null hypothesis. It is the most important thing whenever you want to start a problem. So what hypothesis you have to make and how to make. I think in the morning session they have discussed how to form the formation of hypothesis, but still I want to give some insights and go to the next level of testing of hypothesis. So second, I will take up the second example. Suppose if we want to conclude that the new sales training program is effective. So we formulate the null hypothesis such a way that the new training program is not effective. So if we say hypothesis not effective, if it gets rejected, so we say it is effective. That is the whole idea. Suppose we have one more example. If we want to prove that the average wages of skilled workers in one town is greater than in another town. In that case, we formulate the null hypothesis that there is no difference. I can say no difference means it should be a significant difference. We say there is no significant difference between the average wages. So that's how suppose one is greater, one is lesser. In that case, we say there is no significant difference. There will be a difference, but the difference is not significant. For example, if you want, I can say, sir, the pay band in Mysore, I may get 20,000. Pay band in Bangalore, 25,000. So it makes not much difference. So 5,000 you can think, so 5,000 the expenditure what I involve in making a room or other hospitality charges there. So with 20,000 staying in Mysore in my own house, so it is almost, I can say there is no difference even. So that is the idea about framing the null hypothesis. Next we go to alternate. It is complementary to null hypothesis. Whatever you have taken as null, it is complementary means exactly the opposite. It is exactly the opposite. So here, if I take the previous example, no difference. So the null hypothesis, alternate hypothesis is there is a significant difference. For example, Bangalore I'll get 50,000, Mysore I'll get 25,000. So there is a significant difference. So that way, that is the alternate hypothesis, the complementary to the null hypothesis. The rejection of null hypothesis always leads to acceptance of alternate hypothesis, which covers a wide range of values rather than a single point. So your acceptance range will be usually less. The non-acceptance range will be very large, usually, in most of the problems. So we call that as alternate hypothesis. Next, we have one-tailed test and two-tailed tests. What are these tests? So these are the tests which you conduct and decide whether to accept the hypothesis or reject the hypothesis. So a test is called one-sided only if the null hypothesis gets rejected when a value of the test statistic falls in one specified tail of distribution. Hope you know a little bit of probability distribution, which you have studied in your classes, regular classes. See, usually most of the time, any of the data, they follow a normal distribution. So if your hypothesis gets rejected only on one side of a specified detail, it may be a right or a left, then we say it is a one-tailed test. Further, the test is called two-sided if the null hypothesis gets rejected when a value of the test statistic falls on either side of the two tails of its sampling distribution. So let me take an example and explain you so that you can understand better. Let me consider a water bottling plant which dispenses waters in bottles of 500 ml capacity. The bottling is done through an automatic plant. An overfilling of bottle means a huge loss to the company given the large volumes of sales. And underfilling means the customer get less for what they are paying more, which brings a bad reputation to the company. So we have to avoid overfilling and underfilling. So exactly we want 500 ml, maybe 1 ml or slightly, always there's a tolerance. So these kind of hypotheses are tested on two-tailed tests. Means less than 500, the bottle will get rejected. More than 500 ml, bottle will get rejected. Suppose I want to fix this to a one-tailed test. How to do it as a one-tailed test? Say there's a company which is not bothered about money, is bothered about reputation. So he may say, any bottle less than 500 ml, let it get rejected. Anything more than 500 ml, I am not worried because hardly it may be some 3 ml or 5 ml of anyhow I am giving water. So let me share, there is nothing wrong in it. Anyhow, he has given a huge money. Let me say for a half a liter bottle, you spend 10 rupees. So for him, instead of giving 500 ml or 5 ml, 505 ml, in the bottle near very closer to the cap, it makes no difference for him. So the customer will be satisfied. So the bottle is full. So it falls under one-tailed test. So if it is less than 500 ml, the bottle will get rejected. 500 or more than 500 ml, he is fine. So this falls into one-tailed. Suppose he doesn't want overfilling or underfilling, then it will fall under two-tailed tests. So similarly, you can take your own examples, whether you have to apply one-tailed test or you want to apply two-tailed tests, depending upon the situation. Next, the errors. What are the type? There are two types of errors. What is the first type of error? You are going to accept the hypothesis even though it is not true. You are going to accept the hypothesis even though it is not true. You know it is not true, but still you will accept. Say sometimes a bottle, it is less than 500 ml, you know, but you are very thirsty. You will accept it even though it is not 500 ml. Sometimes you are really full and you don't want to buy, just you have bought water. Even though it is full, you say this bottle is not right. Bottle is a little bit of, let me say the cap is not good. The bottle is old. So you are going to reject the hypothesis even though it is true. The bottle has 500 ml of water. It is non-contaminated, it is not contaminated, but little bit it is not, the bottle is not looking good. In that case, you are going to reject your hypothesis. What is the hypothesis there? You want to drink good water. That is our hypothesis. So here, these are the two types of errors which we usually commit many times. So if it is in the limited range, we call it as error. If it is in the outside the range, it is not error. So next, we are moving on to hypothesis testing.
Escape.
Thank you, madam. So now we can see my face. I am very lucky. Now you can identify me anywhere. Even sir, so Sriraj sir means you can identify. Thank you. Now we are going to the test, hypothesis testing. So before going to that hypothesis testing, let me take an example then and go to the main definition. Whether the machines are working properly on the basis of samples taken of the end product. Similarly, if a new drug is introduced to cure a certain disease and is tested on a sample of patients, a decision must be made upon the response of these patients, whether the drug should be introduced in general market or not. So for example, in the current pandemic, we can think of vaccinations. So I have taken such example here. So these decisions are called statistical decisions. In order to make these decisions, it is necessary to make certain assumptions about the population parameters. Since we are testing our assumptions being correct or not, the field of decision making is known as hypothesis testing. So in the current pandemic situation, even though we have a vaccine, many countries saying we are having vaccine, but we have to have some tests on some population, means some people, at least some, there are nearly around 130 crores we have in country. At least there should be a test at least on 1 crore people. If the 1 crore people get vaccinated and if they are free from the coronavirus, then we can take the assumption or our hypothesis on the statistical data, we make a decision that this vaccination is going to work. Or suppose if it is tested on 1 crore and let me say more than even 50 lakh people, even after vaccination they are getting affected means whatever the statistics data says, we cannot accept that vaccine as a vaccine. But the medicine, whatever given, we cannot accept it. So this is where our hypothesis testing plays a vital role. So what are the procedures for hypothesis testing? The general procedure for hypothesis testing has the following steps. The first one, state the null hypothesis as well as alternate hypothesis. I'm not going to go in detail, just I'm giving you the outline of testing. Second is establish level of significance prior to sampling. See, always when you have a test, you have some tolerance should be there. Sometimes when you take sampling data, there will be some error. That is where your level of significance plays a vital role. So what are the data, to what level I can accept the data? So there are two levels. One is a 5% level of significance, the other one is 1% level of significance. So whether you are going to accept the hypothesis at 5% level or at 1% level of significance. So first that you have to decide. So you are very rigid about the specification, then you have to stick on with 1% level of significance. For example, if you take the vaccinations or a drug, you must fix on to 1% level of significance. Suppose you are taking the water bottle experiment, then you can keep 5% level, no problem. People will not, means they may curse you, but then it is not going to affect much. But when he is going to deal with the drugs or something like the drug means in the sense medicines, so the level of significance should be very low. That is 1%, preferably, or even lesser than that. So the next one is a determination of suitable test statistic. So what test I have to apply for the data? That is more important. So many times when they have the data, they don't know what test they have to apply. So you have to determine what is the best suitable test you can apply for your sample, what you have chosen. Next is defining the rejection or critical regions. This is based on their level of significance. You have to define where, at what level I am going to reject, or where I am going to reject, or critical regions that you have to identify or have to define. Next is the data collection and sample analysis. Once you collect the data, next you have to analyze the data. Next is finally you make a decision. So these are the main 6 steps followed in hypothesis testing. Next, there are 2 types of testing hypothesis. One is parametric test. The second one is the non-parametric test. So in statistics, parametric and non-parametric methodologies refer to those in which a set of data has a normal versus non-normal distribution, respectively. So if a data follows normal distribution, then you are going to apply parametric test. Suppose the data is a non-normal distribution data, then you have to apply non-parametric test. So most of the students or whatever researchers, they get confused whether I have to apply parametric or non-parametric, or which one is good. So I will go to that in the next upcoming slides. So if you want to make your study a more systematic and scientific, then it is better to apply probability sampling technique. So once you apply the probability sampling technique, it follows normal distribution, most of the cases. So doing the systematic and scientific methods of sampling is really difficult task. So that is why we require a lot of time and correct collection of data. So majority of our elementary statistical methods are parametric, and parametric tests generally have higher statistical power. If the necessary assumptions cannot be made out of the data, then we have to use non-parametric tests. So if we go with parametric, we'll be almost correct, provided you have a good sampling technique. So there are various sampling techniques. I am not going to what are the methods of sampling, but that is the most important. How to take the sample, next how to categorize, and next apply the tests. So when the data you are not able to make the necessary assumption, then you can go with non-parametric tests. So most of the researchers who start most of the times they do non-parametric because it is convenient. So you do the sampling as you like. So you can make initially to start with to understand how the things work. Later, maybe on the second, once you start your second year of research or third year of research, you can more focus on parametric or probabilistic sampling and do the better analysis, and you can give a better result for your data or the collection or whatever you want to make the hypothesis. So what are the various tests under parametric? Namely the Z-test, T-test, ANOVA test, F-test, and measuring a correlation between the two variables, that is Pearson product moment correlation. These are the 5 important tests which usually use under parametric. There are many more tests, but basically in most of the research, these 5 tests are used. So what is the Z-test? Z-test means the mean of the distribution, that it tests the mean of the distribution for large data when the data is normally distributed. You want to study the difference between the two means for large collection of data, then you have to apply Z-test. You want to study the mean between two set of data for a small sample, then you can apply T-tests. So Z-test and T-test are almost same for small sample. Z-test and T-test are same for small sample. When the sample becomes very large, T-test is not applicable or it cannot give an accurate data. So you are going to go with Z-test. Next, the third test is ANOVA test. It is to study the variation or variance between the groups as well as within the groups. To study the variance which leads to the standard deviation. So next is the F-test, which is the most powerful test. It is the continuation of ANOVA test. F-tests mainly arise when the models have been fitted to the data using least square methods. So I am not going to go with in detail what are the least square. What do you mean by least square? It itself is a very big area to discuss. The next one is Pearson product moment correlation. It is the measure. It measures the strength between the two relationship of two variables. Suppose you find a correlation coefficient, it is we say the R value. If it is equal to 1, it is closer to 1, we say the two variables are correlated. The two data sets are correlated. They have some similarity. So if you get +1, we say it is positively correlated. If you get -1, it is negatively correlated. 0, there is no correlation between the two set of data. So one you can keep as your theoretical data, the other one you can keep even observed data, and you can even discuss this. So next is the non-parametric test. So it is applied when your sampling is non-probabilistic, or you can say, I can call it as a convenient sampling or a judgment sampling. What do you mean by judgment here means I'm going to test or take the sample as I like. I'm going to say collect the data from this particular place. So that is something like judgment sampling, convenient. I can take as I like. See, I want to study on the whole population of Karnataka. It may be not possible. So what I do, I will take in some samples in Mysore, some samples in different districts of Karnataka, and I will come to a picture. So this is usually the convenient sampling. So for example, consumer behavior of fast moving capital goods. So any Lifebuoy soap. So all these consumer behavior, they fall under non-parametric, because it can be, a questionnaire can be answered by any person, any layman who is using that product. Not necessarily using the product, or he might be having little idea. But you cannot go and ask a question, a mathematics question to some lay person, right? So when you want to ask a specific question, you must go with a specific person, expert. So for that you require parametric, or you require a probabilistic sampling. If you want a more better example, say you have a doubt in mathematics, you have to search for a mathematics teacher. Then you can get clear with the doubts. Instead of searching with the mathematics teacher, if you just find any teacher, then that is what you have chosen the sample or getting a questionnaire answered So you have a mathematics problem. The mathematics problem you are asking a non-mathematician. You may think he can answer. So they fall under non-problem, means it is not correct, not right. So in that case, we require probabilistic sampling or scientific sampling. Convenient, any general questionnaire which can be answered by all from a lower level to a higher level. So such questionnaires or such tests, they fall under non-parametric. So what are the tests under non-parametric test you can apply? One is the chi-square test. The second one is the Mann-Whitney test. The third one is non-parametric correlation test. So what is the chi-square test? It is used to find how the observed value of a given event is significantly different from the expected value. So here on one side you have the theoretical expected values. On the other side you have the observed values. So theoretical expectation will be something, but observation will be something. So how the two values differ, whether they differ significantly or they do not differ significantly. So it is say there's a formula chi-square summation oi minus ei the whole square by ei. So it is exclusively we take the difference between the observed values and the theoretically expected values. So again, once you get the chi-square value, if it is less than the chi-square, you take a chi-square distribution table, there you find the degrees of freedom. If your value of chi-square is less than that a table value, say the hypothesis accepted, otherwise you say hypothesis rejected. Next is the Mann-Whitney test. It is used to compare the means between the two groups of ordinal. The Mann-Whitney statistic is calculated by putting all the data into a rank order. You are going to rank, then you are going to conduct a test. Without ranking, you cannot conduct a test. You are going to arrange the data in a ranking order. Let me say there are 10 people who have scored marks in mathematics. 10 people scored in science. You want to check whether the two marks are correlated or not. In that case, first you have to rank. Then after ranking them, then you are going to apply the test. So the third one is the non-parametric correlation test. The Spearman rank correlation coefficient is similar to the Pearson coefficient, but used when the data are ordinal. Ordinal means you are going to arrange the data rather than interval. So I can say data measured along a scale where all data points are equidistant from one another. So this test essentially works the same way as the Pearson correlation test, only the data must be ranked. First you have to rank the data, then you have to apply the test. So this correlation test you can apply for parametric as well as non-parametric, but there is some conditions. So you have to follow those conditions. Next I am going to make a conclusion. What is the important thing you have to remember of all my talk, the last half an hour? So when you have used probabilistic sampling technique, it is very much essential to apply parametric test to prove your hypothesis. This is the most important question which will be asked by many of your experts when you present a paper. You do research, you publish a paper, or you want to go and present a paper, they will definitely ask this question. What test you have applied? You have applied a parametric or non-parametric, or what sampling you have done? So suppose you have done convenient sampling, and if you apply parametric test, your hypothesis will go wrong. Means you may accept the wrong thing, and or you may reject the right thing. So this is very, very important for every researcher to remember. Whenever you are using probability sampling technique, you have to compulsorily apply parametric test to prove your hypothesis. Compulsorily. And this is your better approach, or I can say the best approach to get a proper decision. See, most of the times you get in election, what I can say, election pre-exit poll. Means the exit poll, once the voting is over, there will be an exit poll. So the exit poll will be most of the times, if you say some good group of research people, definitely they use the probability sampling technique and they apply parametric test and they come into conclusion that these are the places where these people are going to win. You can see in many of the TVs, they say our sea waters is first. They are predicting exactly. So who is predicting exactly? 90% he has applied a proper probability, not just probability sampling, proper probability sampling technique, and he's going to apply the exact parametric test and get the conclusion. Most of the times the sampling will be wrong, so that's why they apply the parametric test and they fail. Many can say some party is going to win 300 seats, but they will win only 150 seats. So when the sampling is not right, you will get into that conclusions. The second one is when you have used a non-probability sampling technique, that is the convenient sampling. You take the measure, means you take the data as you like. Simply you go into one corner, as people who which party you vote. Simply you just take an oral decision, oral things, and you apply the non-parametric test. Then it will give you just an outline, maybe not very close as your probabilistic, but as a parametric, what you can prove your hypothesis very clearly. Here you can go near to the hypothesis, not exactly, almost near. So, or when you can, whenever you have a convenient sampling, you have to always use non-parametric test. So here I am going to conclude my lecture on hypothesis testing. Remember these two remarks, and these are the two references which I have gone through to explain these testing of hypothesis. One is J.S. Chandan and Jagatjit Singh and Khanna, Business Statistics, Vikas Publishing House. The second one is the Deepak Chawla, Nina Sondi, Research Methodology, Concepts and Cases. It is again Vikas Publishing House. And thank you for giving me a great opportunity and also for your patience listening. If you have any questions related to this, you can definitely ask. You can unmute and ask.
Sir, very nice presentation.
Thank you, sir.
With regard to the number of samples that you are mentioning,
Huh.
in case of Z-test,
Yes, sir.
you said it's very small sample. I
No,
think
Z-test, it is a large collection of data.
and the T-test if we take.
T-test is a small sample.
Yeah, small sample when we take into consideration, probably less than 30 samples.
Yes, sir.
Take T-test. Above 30 means we have to go to the other test.
Yes, sir. Z-test, sir.
In addition.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Any other questions?
Okay. Sir, Shiraj sir,
Okay, tell me, sir.
there is a one question, sir.
Yeah, tell me.
Whether null hypothesis
Huh.
should be based on factors or directly we can assume.
See, better it is on the factors. If we simply assume, it is difficult.
Okay.
So you first you take, you want to make the hypothesis. What you want to do, you first you decide.
Okay, sir.
So based on the hypothesis, you can go for the collection of the data.
Okay.
So for that, first you make some means. See, most of the times what we say in the research protocol, that protocol cannot be followed usually. Only we present it. But the first we have to do the most of the analysis first. Then we are going to decide the hypothesis. Usually that's how the research will most of the times will work. You make first, if you make hypothesis, then go for sampling, then go for technique. Sometimes it will be difficult. First you go for collecting the data and based on some parameter, you fix one parameter or what you want to do. Means exact hypothesis need not be formulated first. At least have a rough idea of the null hypothesis. You collect the data, do some analysis, then you can fix the hypothesis. Many a times it will happen like that. You start with some hypothesis, when you get the data, it may not sync with the data. So what you do, you try to change the hypothesis. Many times that will happen in research, many a times. Exactly. Most of the times you cannot fix the hypothesis, then do research. If you, that is actually, it is better if you do fix the hypothesis, then do the research. That will only, those research will be very outstanding research, but that is very difficult. But most of the researchers at, see in research, if you come to research, there are three categories. One is outstanding, growing to an international level. One is doing somehow managing research. Managing in the sense you publish some papers in Scopus at low, not at very low level, but not at very high level, at medium range. You will take up some problems of some other paper and try to solve, fix it, and go through it. Get along means you are balancing your life. You are not putting too much strain. You want to balance with some papers because now it is all about the number game. The third one is they do some publish some work, which will be not useful for everyone, but for the sake of publishing, they will be doing it for getting degree. But those I'll not suggest. But if you want to become an outstanding researcher, try to fix the hypothesis first, then do the real analysis. Then you can do really great. But that will take really tough time. You must be very deterministic. You should not get demotivated by anyone, whatever they say. Then you do your research, definitely you can do exceedingly very well. But what happens, because we have a lot of constraints, our research, we just want degree most of the times because we will be fetching higher salary, promotion, those things are there. We try to finish off the degree fast. So whenever you want to finish off the degree fast, see that you publish in some Scopus at least 2 or 3. Don't, I can say, you can keep your a 5-year problem. You fix the hypothesis, you work 5 years thoroughly, you make a paper which you can publish in your, say, social citation science index, so which will be well known internationally. Other you can keep for living a small problems which you can choose. Every year you publish 1 or 2 papers. Why you keep one big problem, another small problem, so that you will not get screwed up at any cost. At the same time, you will maintain good rapport and good academic standard in your career. Okay?
Yes, sir. Any decision that we take, it all depends upon the data that we have collected.
Yes, sir, definitely, sir.
The data, as you said, we have to take into consideration which has to be accepted and which has to be rejected. As you said earlier, with regard to the type 1 error and type 2 error, in case the rejection, if it is accepted, the acceptance which is rejected should not happen here.
Yes,
so
sir, definitely.
The real research should go with the first making the hypothesis, then either way, either you can take either null hypothesis or this alternative. Based upon the data, you can take the decisions. Right? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shira sir, for
Thank you,
your
thank you, sir.
valuable inputs on nature of parametric and non-parametric data. And also, I thank our beloved HOD, okay, Dr. PSV Balaji Rao, and for share his knowledge on hypothesis testing. Sir, given some information regarding the question. Dear friends, to my knowledge, hypothesis without attributes and variables will be statement of opinion. Exactly, sir.
HOD.
Yeah. Yes, sir. HOD sir given that answer for the question which the participant asked. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your valuable inputs. Now, I would like to introduce our next resource person of the day, Dr. Somashekar IC, Assistant Professor in the Department of Business Administration at Vidyavartaka College of Engineering, Mysuru. He is awarded PhD in the year 2008 in the area of supply chain management. He has around 2 decades of experience in teaching and research. He has published research articles in reputed journals, reputed and peer-reviewed journals, both national and international. Sir, he has also presented paper in various national and international conferences and seminars. He has been resource person for various FDPs and MDPs related to the research. He is recognized guide under VTU Under his guidance, 2 scholars are pursuing PhD currently. His area of interest are marketing analytics, supply chain management, and digital marketing. In today's session, sir will be giving hands-on session on parametric test using SPSS. We are honored to have you here today, sir. Now I request Dr. Somsekhar IC to take over the session. Dr. Somsekhar, sir, over to you. Sir.
Srinath, I'm audible? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It's audible and visible.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, Srinath, for giving a brief introduction. And also, I'm thankful to the department for giving me opportunity to share my experience with respect to the parametric tests using the SPSS. So, dear participants, before starting the session, one of my colleague, Mr. Sriraj, Dr. Sriraj has given a brief introduction about the hypothesis testing and also how we are going to use the parametric and non-parametric test with the different situation or depending upon the different statements or different assumptions. Okay, we are going to use specific parametric and non-parametric tests. So, with respect to start in my session, I am purely focusing on the hands-on session. So already we shared the data with you all. So I expect you also can open the data along with me and you can start working along with the each file. So before starting that, let me give a small introduction and about the parametric and then the tests which are coming under parametric. With that assumption, so we are going to do the analysis here. So parametric test has the meaning itself telling that how best it is going to be considered based on the probability distribution. So here, when the researcher collects the data from the field or through empirical study, so has to see that whether the data collected is normally distributed or not, because the normal distribution, it tells that. And also the researcher wants to check that whether all my respondents answered my all questions which were asked in the questionnaire. If they were not properly answered, understood and answered by the respondents, then it gives the best opinions and also the researcher will get the best results from the respondents where the avoidance of the bias will be very high. So for that reason, and also when we go with the particular statistical tools, the parametric test, which is assuming the probability distribution, which is a high power test. And also many of the researchers, they want to check that how these data were distributed and how this relationship is existing or not. That will be checked using the hypothesis test here. So in the hypothesis test as parametric non-parametric test, so today I'm going to deal with the purely parametric test where with any parametric test you take. So here we talk about the 1 sample test and 2 sample test, because as a researcher, when you collect the data from the population, the population means the data collection from the each and every element from the decided the area or decided the territory, and whereas the sample is representing the population. And researcher wants to, he has limitations, he cannot meet all the respondents in the under population. And very rare cases like in the organization study, we can go with the census study or population study. But when it comes to the huge populations, very difficult to meet because of the time constraints and money constraints and the efforts constraints by the researcher. So for that reason, he tried to check whether whatever my assumptions with respect to the study was correct or not. He will check by comparing the 1 sample with the population. Here comes with the 1 sample test. And also other type of study he do, that is the 2 sample test, where he take the 2 groups of samples and he try to check that what is the relationship among them, whether both the samples, okay, or have the samples drawn from the 2 populations are having the same opinion or not. So such type of the analysis can be done in the market research, where again he will get the 2 types of opportunities, that is one is independent sample t-test and the paired sample t-test. In the independent sample test, so he find the two groups, okay, will be compared, whereas the paired sample test, the same sample will be tested twice with respect to the requirement of the researcher. So while doing the parametric test, again the question comes whether we are going to apply independent t-test or paired t-test or one sample t-test or ANOVA test. So among that, what should be the nature of the data you're going to collect? In the questionnaires, you know that the scales, that is the basic primary scale, that is nominal scale, ordinal scale, interval scale, and the ratio scale. So these were used to collect the response from the respondents in the questionnaire. And based on the researcher, what type of the information is required, so he has to prepare the respective questions properly in the questionnaire. And if he made a mistake in deciding the type of scales, it may lead to the wrong analysis for the researcher. Today, the blunder, we know that in the SPSS or maybe in the softwares, just by clicking one button, we'll get the result. But when it comes to the interpretations, when it comes to the interpretation and explaining the nature of the data or the results, so their questions comes with the, like whether the dependent variable is metric or non-metric, independent variable was taken metric or non-metric. So based on that, these hypotheses can be done. So on the parametric test, so here I want to highlight with the first one is about the independent t-test. That is the two samples were taken, two different samples were taken, and we are going to do the analysis. So in this, dependent variable should be a scale or metric. A scale or metric means like among the nominal, ordinal, interval ratio, among the four scales, the first, that is nominal and ordinal scales, we call them as a non-metric, and whereas the interval and ratio scales we call it as a scale or metric. So dependent variable should be a scale or metric, whereas independent variable should be a categorical or non-metric. And easy to remember, the categorical means like in the dichotomous or multiple choice when you're giving. So categorize. Okay, easily you can recall that the categorical variables. So in that way, when it comes to paired t-test, again we are going to use the same. Like dependent variable will be with the scale or metric, and where the independent variable with the categorical or non-metric. But when it comes to one sample test, where we are checking that whether sample is representing the population or not. So in that time, we are taking the behavior. Take example, because the public opinion towards the COVID-19 new vaccine. Suppose you want to check that, so you cannot meet all, but you take the samples and you check that whether it is representing the population or not. So in that time, that behavior, that one variable will be taken. That should be a dependent variable, and it should be a scale or metric. And it comes to the ANOVA test, where we are going to compare more than, if you want to compare more than two groups, so normally we apply this analysis of variance, where we are checking the variances are equal or not. Okay, with that assumptions we use, and in that time we use the dependent variable, which should be a metric, and independent variable should be a categorical or non-metric. So these are very important, the scaling structure before developing the questionnaire, and based on that, these statistical tools will be decided. So as hypothesis testing already told by my colleagues, so I don't want to spend more time on this. Now coming to the first one, that is the one sample t-test. So by doing the one sample t-test, so before telling about the t-test, when the sample size is more than 30, we call z-test, and we apply z-test, whereas if it is less than 30, we apply the t-test. So in that way, so let us take first example about the one sample t-test. So before doing this one sample t-test to carry out, so researcher has to make certain assumptions, because we already discussed that the parametric tests are purely based on assumptions, where we are assuming that all data are normally distributed. And if they are not supporting, then he can go for the non-parametric test. And also it is interesting that the researcher he may get a chance to check that, yes, I assume the data is normally distributed and I'm applying the parametric test, and he'll get a chance to check that whether data is normally distributed with the process. So in this one sample test, we can see that the assumptions, like first one is normal sampling distribution, means data should be normally distributed. Second one is random sampling. Random sampling means as here the data should be based on the probable distribution. So here the random sampling will be used where there is not be bias while selecting the data respondents. Sorry. And also independent observation means here whatever the respondents, the data was collected, that is called as the observation, and it should be independent from each other. They should not be biased and it should not be replica. So that way, so these assumptions were made in the one sample t-test. I'm audible to all? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
You're
sir.
audible, sir.
No, audible, no problem.
Thank you, sir. So let me go with the first case, that is case of cellular company. So I'm opening the file of a cellular company, which I already shared with you all. So in this case, a cellular company, that is a mobile company, which is offering telecom services, and they are offering telecom services where customers are consuming the data, and also they are paying money, and company is assuming that the average monthly bill is rupees 100. Okay, let me open the data also. So this is the average monthly bill, the SPSS file I shared. I expect the participants also already open the SPSS, so you can go along with me, because we are touching the basic parts where these type of tools also used to publish the articles. But very important is how best you are interpreting your data and you are justifying the views. Yeah. So this is the data. Okay. So all of you know that in the SPSS, when we open, we have two windows. One is variable view and the data view. The variable view, we have name here, the serial number, gender, the minutes means number of minutes that is consumed by the customers. There's a bill, the business, the years of using our service, income, and the score. And these were mentioned in the label part here. And also values were here developed, that is where with respect to gender, that is male and female, the values are given like 0 as a female and 1 as a male, that's the code was given. And also as it is dichotomous, and we done this as a nominal scale, because this is very important before starting any analysis. So to check that whether the input data were properly aligned or not. So there is no missing values, and with respect to measures here, we are taking the nominal scale. Now coming to this hypothesis. So here, as a company wants to check that whether they are collecting whether they're getting the average, the monthly bill is rupees 100 from the population or not. So here, to test the hypothesis, that means the sample mean of average monthly bill does not differ significantly from the population mean. So here, while representing the hypothesis, we can use two methods. One is with the statements, another one is by using the symbols directly, or the notations. So here I use the mean, that is the mu is equal to 100. That means the population mean, okay, the monthly bill is rupees 100, and it is not equal to 100. That is the ordered hypothesis. So the same thing are written in the statement. So this way also you can write the statements. So ultimately we know the meaning of null hypothesis, that there is no difference, all are equal. Okay. And with that assumption, so the researcher is going to check whether my assumptions are correct or not. Even though many times with respect to hypothesis, the result was known by the researcher, but he want to check that whether my assumptions are correct or not. Why is going for such type of the investigation? Because the responses will vary from person to person and also sample to sample. Today I am doing this survey in Mysore. The respondents may be from one area of Vijayanagar second stage. So that may be the respondent's response may be different from the Gokulam, or maybe from the Siddhartha layout. So like that, depending upon the respondents, the consumptions, the behavior also will vary. That's what. So here we can see that whether the sample is representing population or not properly, so that we can consider with this case. So here we made null and ordered hypothesis. So with this here, let me go with the steps of this one sample t-test. So here I'll open the SPSS. So in this data view, if you come to data view here, you can see that here the sample size was 250. Okay, the sample size is showing 250. And here the serial number, gender, and also already you know that if the data are okay in the word to number numeric, okay, you can use this 1 to a this option. And now my objective is to check that with respect to the bill, whether the average bill is 100 or not. So first I'll go with the analyze. And with analyze in the before, okay, descriptive statistics, tables, compare means. In the compare means, we'll get one sample test. But before moving this, so I told that we had to make certain assumptions that data is normally distributed. So let me show one example that whether the data, what I'm going to evaluate, is it normally distributed or not. So first we'll go with the descriptive statistics and then go with the explore. And I am using the dependent variable, that is the average monthly bill. So this I am using and dropping in the dependent list. And after that, in the statistics, so no changes, descriptives, and confidence interval is 95%. And in the plots, the stem and leaf, histogram, and the normality, because I'm checking the normality for this variable. So I am using all these three, the descriptives, okay, and I'm giving the continue. In the options, so exclude cases list-wise, so no need to change anything. And then comes with the bootstrap. Bootstrap is used when you want to explore the data when the samples is very less, when it is not meeting. So no need to use all this when it comes with the multivariate analysis. So we normally use this bootstrap analysis. So I done in the statistics, plots, and options. So here I'm clicking OK. The results are coming here. So under the explore option, so one is here we are getting the three, okay. One is with the case processing summary, which talks about the n samples is 250, 100% valid, okay. And the descriptives, that's already Dr. Karthika explained everything yesterday in the understanding the mean of normality. But particularly, I am focusing on the tests of normality. So in the checking the test of normality, we are using the two tests. One is Kolmogorov-Smirnov test and Shapiro-Wilk test. So these two tests, okay, the significance value should be, okay, should be non-significant. Okay, if it is non-significant, that means the data is normally distributed. If it is less than 0.05, then becomes significant, then data is deviated from the normality. I hope all of you are clear. So these two tests should show, particularly in the Shapiro-Wilk test, it has to show that the significance value should be non-significant. That means it should be more than 0.05. So based on this, we are getting confirmation that the data is normally distributed. Along with that, another opportunity we can get that normally all the researchers use, that is the histogram, the data. So where this histogram itself is showing a normal distribution with this cumulative. Okay, if you join all this, you'll get a continuous line, smooth curve, which shows the normal distribution. So with this, we'll come to know that the data is normally distributed. So the assumption, as the researcher made that while doing the parametric test, he assumes the data is normally distributed, and he can do a and he can check the normality with the respective variable. Now after that, now we'll move into our hypothesis, that is analyze, compare means. First one is we are focusing on the one sample t-test. So this is a table you'll get, the one sample t-test, so the test variables. So test variable is we are checking with the average monthly bill. So I am dropping here. And what is test value? So this test value, that is the population mean assumed by the researcher. So in our case, the hypothesis, the researcher is assuming that the population mean is the average, the bill made by the customers to the company is 100. So here, I'll write this 100 here. Analyze, compare. Yeah. Enter the test value here 100. Suppose the company is assuming that they are receiving 200 rupees average bill, so they can change the values here, test value. So with respect to this test value, we are going to check that whether it is above or below or not equal. So company is checking that. So whether it is 100 or not, that's it. So I'll go with the options. So here confidence interval percentage is 95%. and I'm going with the continue, and I'm clicking OK. So it's a very simple steps with respect to the one sample t-test. So after clicking OK, so here the t-test, and this in this output window we'll get whenever do one sample t-test, we'll find two tables here. One is one sample statistics, and second table is one sample test. This one sample statistics is also called as descriptive statistics and also summary of the data. That's what you'll find here: the population size, the mean, standard deviation, standard error. So these all talks about the descriptive statistics, the summary of the nature of the data we collected. That means the sample is 250, the average of the respondents, the paying the bill is 63.39. The standard deviation is from the standard mean, it is plus or minus 19.79, and the standard error of 1.25. Now we'll focus on our main the analysis table, that is the one sample test. So here you can see that test value is 100. So whatever test value we are comparing with the population mean, that is 100. It is showing here. The average monthly bill is showing here the t value, degrees of freedom, the significance value, the mean difference, and also the at 95% confidence level, the lower and upper means the range is showing. Now in this, you can find that the significance value, it is showing two-tailed and it is less than 0.05. You already know that in the hypothesis process, if the p-value, if R also called a significance value is less than 0.05, we are going to reject the null hypothesis. If it is more than 0.05, we are going to accept the null hypothesis. That means we are evaluating, because null hypothesis statement, the assumption was made by the researcher is going to check with this p-value. That's what we are not talking. We are not comparing with the alternate hypothesis. We are just telling that null hypothesis accepted, null hypothesis rejected. And here one important thing I want to highlight is that is the two-tailed mention. So two-tailed means that is as the hypothesis. What we mentioned here, that is with the equality. If it is equal means equal and unequal means it's a two-tailed test. Or if it is the alternate hypothesis, assuming that the company or the researcher wants to know that whether the bills are more than 100 or less than 100, that means one-tailed test will come, whereas this one is equal, not equal. This talks about the two-tailed test. Where less than or more than, that talks about the one-tailed test here. So in this, if the company wants to check that whether the mean value, okay, is the bill value is less than 100, then we call it as a left-tailed test. Or if it is more than 100, if we can going to check with the right-tailed test. So that way, we are making the assumptions and we are going to check here with the significance value. And as per here, the significance value is less than 0.05. That means whatever the analysis we have done, so that is showing that it is significant and it is not equal to 100 rupees. That means it is either maybe more than or maybe less than. So this can be analyzed with this process, like where any researcher you take, when you're doing the interpretation, he always focus on the type 1 error. As already type 1, type 2 errors explained by the Dr. Sriraj. Okay. So here the null hypothesis accepted, null hypothesis rejected, whereas null hypothesis true or null hypothesis false. And here, based on the data, that is the conclusion from the statistical analysis. That means the based on the data, we are going to reject the null hypothesis, even though null hypothesis is true. I hope you clear. All of you are clear with this. So even null hypothesis is true, but based on the collected data means the respondent's opinion. That's what I told, that the respondents may be varying from one area to other area. So that's what. So you may not get the consistent responses from the different sample groups. But he has to decide, he has to rely on, he has to depend on the area that is as a part of the limitation of the research study, and he can come up with the solutions only for that selected area. So in that way, so every researcher wants to prove this, okay, wants to do always, they are interested to do this, conduct type 1 error, where even though hypothesis true is going to reject. And also, with respect to this one tail, two tail, or significance test, statistical significance test, we come to conclusion that in the one sample t-test, we can easily say that whether sample is representing population or not, or whether it is giving the same opinion or not. This type of the analysis can be done using the one sample t-test. So I hope all of you are clear with this results with the one sample t-test. And anybody is having doubt, please, with the steps. I'm audible to all? Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Audible.
Yeah. Any doubts with the one sample t-test with the steps?
One addition here,
Yes, sir.
sir. You have said about the histogram
Ah,
with
sir.
regard to the normal distribution of data.
Yes, sir.
Usually we call it as the bell-shaped curve.
Yes, sir.
Histogram usually, if you represent, it will be in the form of a, see, it is here.
Yes,
it
sir.
will be like the bell-shaped curve. Then we say it's a normally distributed.
Distributed.
This
Yes,
is
sir.
addition.
Yes, sir. So in that way, we can see that as we check this data with the histogram, sir, so it is showing the bell curve, sir, bell shape design, sir. So in that way, we are making assumptions, and we can come to conclusion that data is normally distributed, and this also stem and leaf design also showing with the bell shape design, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. So this is about the one sample t-test, which is normally used in the students' projects, and even the researchers, they can, if they are interested to evaluate whether the samples are representing population or not. So normally they go with this one sample test. And here another example also given. Okay, there is a breaks. Okay, all of you can use this database, and you can check with the one sample t-test. You can do with this. This data file. So I shared the additional data file here, so you can use that, and you can check the variability. Okay, there's a machine number and disk break. Okay, whether disk break diameter is around, support example, 300 diameter. Okay, if it is 300 diameter or not, or the samples what they taken, they are more or less, so that you can evaluate using this data as a exercise point of view. Now moving to the second type of the statistical test, that is two sample test.
Excuse me, sir.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, madam. Yes, madam. Any doubt?
Hello.
Yes, madam.
Sir, good afternoon, sir.
Yes, madam.
Sir, one doubt.
Yeah.
Sir, let us say when I run the test of normality, and I find that my data is not normal. So, is there any possibility that I do correct my data that is being collected, like by deleting any particular reading, data of a particular correspondent? Is there any possibility available like that?
No, we can do this
How
with
do I
one.
bring the data I have
yes,
collected into
yes.
normal?
Yes, madam. One is you have to go with sample test, madam. First, pilot testing of your data before going to the large data collection, madam. That is a one precaution every researcher has to do. And the second one is when the sample size is not adequate. So on that time also, the chances is that data may not be normal,
Okay, sir.
normal distributed. So on that time, you have to take a decision, and you have to go for the more number of data sets. So on that time, we'll get the normality distribution. And even as I today I shown that the Smirnov test. So here also you can do the.
Sir, in the box plot, yes, sir.
Yes, madam.
Sir.
So here also you can see that the box plot which is appeared exactly in the middle.
Sir, in the box plot tests are in.
Yes, madam. You can see here the distribution.
Sir, is there any possibility, like in box plot or other this thing, any particular specific readings will be shown? Like let us say some 5 to 6 readings. I mean to say correspondence data. Can I delete? Like if I find them, like that.
Yes,
in the box
yes, madam.
plot.
It's all in.
Possible
Yes,
like that?
whatever you're telling, correct, madam. It's all in the hands of the researcher, madam. Because when you're developing the questionnaires based on questions based on the objectives, you should be cautious that whether the questions are meeting my objectives or not.
So that falls into 95% of confidence. Huh.
Yes,
No,
madam.
if it is in the 90,
Okay.
if it is in 95% confidence level, no problem.
That means that shouldn't be more than that. That's what my p-value is not compromised.
Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
Okay,
That's what.
okay.
As
Sir,
a,
thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
that's what many times as a researcher, we are always, even though we do very cautiously, but there is no 100% normal distribution. Because it will vary from person to person, and also there are a lot of errors. Okay, the sampling errors, non-sampling errors are there, which were made, some made by the researcher, some are happening unknowingly by the researcher. That's what. So we are taking this the significance level and confidence level. That's what we say, 95% confidence level and the 5% significance level. The p-value we take 0.05, that is the 5% for the social science studies, whereas we go with 99% confidence and 1% the significance level, that is with the medical cases are very sensitive cases, whereas with the 90% confidence level and 10% significance level, by considering the 10% error, that is with the like political, the social, political surveys, such type of that way, the researcher has to decide that what is the level of the error he's going to accept. But in general, as per the industry norm, so we prefer 95% for all these social science studies. Well, let us move to the next case, that is with the two sample test, as I was telling. So in the two sample test, so as said here, the researcher wants to compare between the two groups. That means he want to check with the like city A or city B, with the respondent's opinion towards the COVID new vaccine is same or is it varying. Suppose even though we seen that in the newspapers or in the news channels, suppose the North Indian channels, okay, they are telling with some opinion, the people in the North India, they don't have confidence or they will not be having 100% confidence, but the South Indians or with some other population, maybe they have some confidence. So like these variations will happen, and the researcher wants to check that whether both are having the same opinion or not. So in such situations, they use these two sample tests, and that's an independent sample t-test. So in this, as two groups we are using, so they should be dependent. Variable should be a ratio and interval scale, and also as said, it should be normal distributed, and respondents of both groups are independent samples very strictly. They should not be with the same, and the variance of both groups are equal. So these are the assumptions we are making in this two samples. So here I'll go with the case study. There's a supermarket survey. So in the supermarket the study, okay, I'll please open the database what I shared. So in the file like independent and paired t-test, in this I shared the Excel sheet. Please open the Excel sheet. And also the MS Word sheet with respect to the supermarket, the analysis. That means here, in this study, what happened, the researcher is interested to check that whether the supermarket is offering a best customer services, and they want to evaluate through the service quality dimensions. So here, the service quality dimensions that we know that the 5 service quality dimensions, can you mention those? Tangibility, reliability, responsiveness, okay, and empathy and assurance. And they want to check that whether these services are offered and whether they're meeting all these service quality dimensions or not. So here I'm just sharing a questionnaire and how the data was taken just with just 2 minutes. I'll give a glance so that any projects you are taking, so while writing the P1 articles also, it will help you. So the hypothesis, okay, here we made a title like study on assessment of service quality effectiveness at supermarket in Mysuru, and the hypothesis was framed like there is no significant difference between the expectations and perception of the customers towards services offered at supermarket. Suppose the customer before going to supermarket, he enters with some expectations like getting the best services, best products, best discounts, best ambience, like that. As a customer, before entering, we have some expectations. And after entering that, our experience may be different. That's called as the perception. Perception means the experience, okay, the pursued by the customer. That's called the perception. And here, This perception experience both are consumed by the same respondent. That's what we use when we pair sample t-test, which talks about that. Sorry, here we going with the independent sample t-test and pair sample t-test. Both I'm going to discuss. So here there is no say here. First, I'm going to show you the questionnaire here: name, contact number, the age, gender, education, occupation, marital status, nationality. So these are part A. There is a demography data, and in the part B, we develop a questionnaire like dimensions with respect to the first tangibles. Under that 6 items, and here the questionnaire structure, we can see that expectations and the perceptions. Okay, and also the reliability, the responsiveness, empathy, and the assurance. So these were taken as a this was a questionnaire was developed and data was collected. And for this, I'll show you the data. That is the supermarket survey. So from the survey, the questionnaire here, the researcher done around 150 survey of 150 respondents. This is the data in the Excel sheet. D1 to D6 talks about the demographic data. E1 to E24, there is a 24 questions from the 5 dimensions. There is the expectations related the responses from 1 to 5 rating scale, whereas 1 is the strongly disagree and 5 is the strongly agree with respect to the variables. And also P1 to P26, like this, the data was collected and it was entered. And this was transposed to spaces here. This is the data view. Okay. Yeah. Now let us go to the variable view. So in this variable view, you can see that the name, that is the demographic D1, D2, D6 we given, expectations with its tangibles, 6 questions, T1 underscore E. And similarly here, after this T1 underscore P, that talks about the perception related. And here I taken the labeling, that means each item I dropped here, or even you can give some short code also for each one. And here the values when it comes with the scales. Okay, here we use 1 is strongly disagree to 5 is strongly agree, which is common to all scale questions here. And here I use the age, gender, education, okay, male and female, occupation, with the student, housewife, professional, and also with the marital status, married or unmarried. So this is a data set. And here all these diagrams multiple choice, they are representing nominal scale and remaining of the scale data. This is the interval data. Now coming to our discussion with the students, now let us first talk about the case of we are dealing with independent sample t-test. In the independent sample t-test, okay, there is no significant difference between the male and female. There is 2 independent groups based on the gender. Male is one group, female is another group. And we are checking the hypothesis that there is no difference between these 2 groups with as a customers towards the services offered at supermarket. And alternate hypothesis, there is significant difference between the male and female customer group towards the service offered at supermarket. So I'm going to compare the opinion of the 2 groups here. And if it is more than 2 groups, then it counts with the analysis of variance. So that's what we are going to check. We are going to take the demographic data which are having the 2 options. Even you can compare with this marital status with the married, unmarried. So like that, with the dichotomous options you can use here. That means 2 groups will get, and you can compare both. Now let me start with the analysis here. So supermarket data. So I'm starting with the independent sample t-test. So compare means independent sample t-test. So as you click here, you'll get the data here. A little bit expanding this, you'll get the window this. So here grouping variable and testing variable. So I'll take one tangible variable, that is expected, as a one variable which I want to check, or else all the 5 you want, you can check. So let me take first one as an example. So the physical facilities of the stores are visually appealing. So this as a test variable. And I'm going to compare what is the difference of opinion with respect to the visually appealing among the two groups. So here I'll take as with respect to the hypothesis, I'll take the gender, adding here. So we'll ask define the groups. So first I given group 1 as 1, okay, male as 1, is it true? Okay, you can check here with the gender. Okay, so this is very, very important. Here 1 as male and 2 as female. Okay, so define the group 1 as male and 2 as female. I'm giving continue. Okay, now coming to the options here. So confidence level percentage is 95%. That means 5% significance level. So the groups are defined. I'm giving OK. So after clicking OK in this independent sample details, we'll get two tables. One is group statistics. Second table is independent sample test. In the group statistics, again, it talks about the summary of the data. That is the descriptive statistics. There is the sample size. You can see here the physical facilities of the stores are visually appealing. Gender, the two groups, male and female. And here we'll come to know that what is the sample size, what is the size of the male, one group, and what is the size of the female. So based on the respondents, here we can see that 48 male, 68 male are there, 82 female are there. And their average opinion of the male is 4.8 and the female is 4.7. And standard deviation is just 0.4 is deviating from the standard mean value. Here 0.5 plus or minus is deviating from the mean value. Now coming to the actual required analysis, that is whether our significance, the difference between the two groups is significant or not. So here, when it comes to the independent sample test, it's very important to look here that it is doing two types of analysis in the independent sample test. One is Levin's test for equality of variances, and second one is t-test for equality of means. What is Levin's test for equality of variances? We are assuming that the variances are equal, and the Levin's test, it shows that it always says that the variances are always equal. The variances of the different groups are always equal. So for that reason, we can write another hypothesis here. What is that hypothesis? You can see that Levin's test for equality of variances. We can say that the variances having equal, the groups are having equal variances. There is a null hypothesis. The groups are not having equal variances. There is the alternate hypothesis. Okay, the variance of two groups are equal. Two groups are not equal. There is a Levin's test. And this Levin's test, it says that if the significance value, okay, if it is not significant, that means it is telling that the variances are equal. Okay, you should be very cautious in making interpretations here. And also, this Levin's test also helps to see that whether I should read the significance value from the variances equal, that is the first row or second row. So as the software SPSS is based on the given data, okay, it is showing the significance value was 0.155, that is not significant. And also F statistics value is 2.046, where it directly says that referring with the significance value for the T. So based on this Levin's test, we can conclude that the variances are equally assumed and they are proven. And coming to the second analysis, that is the t-test for the equality of means. So here you can see that the degrees of freedom and the significance p-value, that is showing 0.513. You will be confusing that in a dilemma that whether I should read this or this. So based on the Levin's test, so we are going to read this value, that is 0.513. So this is again, which is more than 0.05, there is a p-value. That means it is accepting the null hypothesis, and here null hypothesis, it says that there is no significant difference between the male and female toward the services offered at the supermarket. So in that way, so based on the significance value, we can do we can come to a conclusion that both the male and female are having a common opinion towards what the variable taken. The physical facilities of the stores are visually appealing. So this is about the independent sample test. Now I'll move to the next. The questions will be we take at the end. Let me finish this part and I'll go with that. Next is a parity test. The parity test, which is tells that I want to check with the same respondent what is this difference of opinion before and after. Normally, this parity test we use in the training programs with the company wants to check that whether the training program is effective or not for the employees. So before training program and after the training program, they'll collect the opinion and they compare the differences. So that way, so parity test will be used for the same respondents with the two opinions. So here we also make assumptions like dependent variable as single respondent, and here they should be with the ratio or interval scale. The questions to be developed. Sample mean should be normal distributed. Respondents of both groups are okay. It should be dependent. Sorry, here it is dependent. Okay, not independent samples, and variance of both groups are equal. Now coming to the same case, that is a supermarket survey. Now here, I am going to check that is there a significant difference of opinion with respect to expectation perception of the customers toward the services offered at supermarket. So here I am going to not check with the different gender group, but I am going to check that only with the opinion of the customers before and after. Like normally you see that companies used to do market research and they do analyze that whether the advertisements are effective or not. They select some control group and uncontrolled group, and they give the two different advertisements, and they going to check the they're going to collect the opinions of the customers for both groups. So that way, so here in the supermarket, the researcher wants to check that is there a significant difference between the expectations and the perception. So here the tangible services, that is I'm going to analyze whether they are same the difference of opinion towards the tangible services or not. So significance level is 0.05, and here let me take the data. Okay. Supermarket survey data. Yes. Analyze. So I'm going to show you the step-by-step analysis for the parity test. So compare means that means that is comparing the mean values of the two groups. So here only you'll get the paired sample t-test. When it comes with the structure of the window is different. So you should be cautious, and you should know that what is you're going to compare between the two variables. This is the variable 1 and variable 2, and we are going to compare the difference between the expectation versus perception of one respondent, that is called the one pair. So here, as in the coding, I given as E as expectations and also as P as perception. So here, first variable I take physical facilities of the store are visually appealing. Okay, it's already done. So I'll go with the employees of the employees at the stores are well dressed. I'll take this second. Okay, and the perception. What is the perception? That is also I'm going to enter. So when you move this, automatically the variable 2 with respect to the same item. And even if you want to do a multiple analysis, that also you can do. So let me add another one. The store was the store has clean, attractive, and convenient public utilities. Or yeah, the billing counters in the stores are arranged in the proper sequence. So I will add this. This is perception. So first I'll enter the expectations. Then I'll go with the perception. Okay, I'll take the two variables. So that way you can add all the variables, the items which you want to compare. So just taken the two for as an example here. I'll go with the options. Same confidence level is 95%. Continue. So no further options here. So we'll go with the OK. So you can see this the output. You'll find here three tables. So one is paired sample statistics table, paired samples correlations table, paired samples test table. So paired sample statistics, that again talks about the distributed statistics, summarized statistics. That is the pair one. That is the employees at the store are well dressed. Employees at stores are well dressed. Okay, this is the pair one with the expectations. Okay, versus perception, the mean values. The sample size, you can see with the based on number, you can find that whether any data is missing or not. So sample size is 150. All the 150 respondents' opinion was taken toward this variable, standard deviation, and the standard. Coming to second table that talks about the paired samples correlation, which talks about that whether the is there a correlation and what is the degree of correlation is existing among the expectations and the perception of a one pair of the one single respondent. You can see here with respect to first pair one. So here the correlation is was 0.179, that is 17.9% of degree of correlation, positive correlation, and significant, that is as it is less than 0.05. In the correlation analysis, we know that the null hypothesis, it is a significant, there is a significant relationship among the before and there is expectations versus the perceptions. Similarly, with respect to billing counters, here also it's showing the 32.3% positive degree of correlation, and it is also having a significant relationship between the before and after. That means they have some opinions of what they expected, and up to 32.3% it was fulfilled. Okay, it was satisfied by the customers with respect to the billing counters arrangements. Now coming to the main table for the interpretations or for analysis, that is a paired sample t-test. So in this, I'll go with the first pair one, then you can do with the pair two, pair three, like that, up to a number of pairs, whatever entered in the data analysis. First, I'll just take with the pair one here. So again, the mean value, okay, the pair differences, mean value, that is here, a standard deviation. So pair difference means there is a mean difference here between the two, 0.60667. And the t statistic value is 6.690, degrees of freedom 149. That is the degrees of freedom value is always, it talks about the n minus 1. The sample size n 150 minus 1 is 149 get here. And the significance is, it's showing that at 2 tailed it is 0.000. That means what? It is less than 0.05. That means it is having a significant difference. Okay, that means what the customers expected. So after perceiving, their opinion is modulated or transformed. Maybe customers are having, as it's showing positive correlation, so customers are showing are experiencing a positive improvement with respect to their expectations before visiting the supermarket. Also with respect to the counter level, the billing counter arrangements, you can see that this also is significant. That means, so what they expected, so they got more good experience, the positive experience than what they expected. That way, this pair sample t-test will be used by the researchers to compare before and after the impact or the comparing the opinions of the consumers towards these type of expectations. So this is about the pair t-test. Now coming to the last tool I'm going to deal in the 5 minutes I'm going to finish. That is the one-way ANOVA. ANOVA itself talks that analysis of variance, and normally we use this analysis of variance statistical tool if the researcher wants to compare the mean value of more than two groups. These two groups, obviously we see in the independent sample test or the pair sample test. But if you want to compare more than two groups, so he has to apply go with the analysis of variance, where repetition of the mean values again and again, where pairwise you have to go. If suppose 5 groups are there, and you want to compare the mean values, then 1 to 2, 1 to 3, 1 to 4, 1 to 5, or 2 to 3, 2 to 4, 2 to 5, like that. Every time you have to take the mean values, then you take the average of mean values, and then you have to compare. So instead of that, so analysis of variance gives a direct option to compare whether the variances are same or not. If it is different, then it is easily analyze that is there a significant difference between the groups or not. So again, here the assumptions we make same. The dependent variable is measured in ratio interval scale. Again, we assume normal distribution. We assume that respondents are selected randomly, and respondents of all groups are not related, and variances of all the groups are equal. So common to all the T, Z, and this ANOVA. So here to show this, and also as I mentioned here, ANOVA with the post hoc. What is post hoc test? This post hoc test will be like a further operations on the results we got. If there is significant difference between the three groups, whether the difference is the difference is high among the first and second group, or first and third group, or second and third group. So that is another next level of the analysis. If the researcher is interested, then he can go for the post hoc test. Let us, I hope we'll clear with this coming example, the case I taken, the banks and technology. So please open the data that I shared here with the ANOVA, with post hoc, here the banks and technology. And also, please open this SPSS data sheet. Yeah. What is banks and technology? Today we know that based as the technology is updating, getting towards advancement, the banks getting transformation in the services, the type of services they are offering to the customers. The same way here, the banks here the researcher, he taken, okay, 1 minute I'll open, yeah. You see the variables here. The researcher, he met with the different banks. He want to check that whether the services, advanced services with respect to technology application, or the involvement of technology in the banking services, how the customer services are improved, and what is the opinion of the customers. And here, he interacted with various bank customers. So 7 banks customers, their responses were collected here. And they collected the information like, my bank offers efficient core banking system. My bank has widespread ATM networks. It offers secure net banking services, effective phone banking, user-friendly of services. So like this, the customers-friendly services, enhanced services, because the technology even today we are enjoying, like the chatbots, which are even reducing our burden to get the instant information from the banking, the bank's websites. So like that, here some data items were developed, and the data was collected from the respondents. Here the name was given bank, the core bank services from the ATM, net bank, phone bank, the user friendly. So this is the name was given, okay, and the values. And again here the scales were, because as these statements were answered by the respondents based on whether he agreed with the statement or not, that was collected for all. Again with the bank with the 7, so normal scale we are changing, and all are with the metric scales with the scales value. Now I am going with the ANOVA. So before going ANOVA analysis, ANOVA talks that it want to check that is there significant difference among the different groups or not with respect to a particular variable. So here we are checking that the services, banking services offered, that is 5 services were data was collected, whether these services are differing among the different banks or not. So among the 7 banks, all these services are varying or not. If it is varying, then what is the commonality among common type of services we can see among the different banks. So that way go with the post hoc analysis. So your banks were taken as a categorical and services metric data, significance level, that is alpha is 0.05. Okay. Okay, let me go with the analysis. So I'll go with the analysis, bank and technology, to clear with the database, and let me show the data view, that is how many respondents here the data was collected. Here the respondents are 185. Okay, so as per this you can see that the sample size is 185, and now this one is showing over the wording, so I'll change it to numeric. Now I'll go with the analysis. So first, okay, so first one is with the compare means and one-way ANOVA. So to go with the one-way ANOVA, so here the bank, which is considered the factor, because I'm going to compare among the different banks. Here you can take all the variables or each individual variables for checking the difference of opinion among the banks. So what I will do, I'll take first one and I'll explain, then we'll go with all at a time. So here, to make it more visible, I'll just expand it. My bank offers efficient core banking system. So contrast, so no changes here. Post hoc, I'll come later. Options. So here, you can go with the 3 tables. One is descriptive statistics. Why we are using descriptive? Because that will give directly the mean value, the mean opinion, or the average opinion of the customer's value their states. That is because we collected opinions from 1 to 5. That is, 1 is strongly I disagree, 2 strongly agree. So if it is above 3, so we'll come to we are getting the positive responses. If it is less than 2, less than 3, we're getting the negative responses. Then homogeneity of variance test and the means plot. So these 3 we need to click when doing the one. One is descriptive, second one is homogeneity of variance test, because the variance, because this, as I said, we want to check that is there a homogeneity is appearing among the means common the service features appearing among the different banks or not. To check that homogeneity of variance test is required, and the means plot is help us to identify that what about the services, how the services are varying from bank to bank. With the graph we can get. So continue. So I'm giving OK. So I take only one variable here. Okay. So my bank offers efficient core banking system. Like that, we collected 5 variables, 5 statement data here. Now you can see that here again you'll find the 3 tables, okay, including the mean plot graph. So first one, descriptive statistics, tells about the summary. There is a mean. You can see that, as I said, sum is 4, 3.7, 3.9. With itself, we can come to know that what is the over range of opinion. But here, very important is standard deviation, the plus or minus. Now coming to the test of homogeneity variables. So it is showing Levin test. As said, my bank offers core banking system where it is showing among the different banks, the variances are, okay, there is no, all variances are equal. There is a difference among the variances. The group variances are equal, the group variances are not equal. That is the null and outer hypothesis with the Levin test we can do. And here with the significant level is it's showing more than 0.05. That means we are rejecting null, we are accepting null hypothesis. That means all variances are equal. And with respect to this ANOVA, you can see that between the groups, within the groups, sum of squares, degrees of freedom, mean square, and the F statistics value, which is the ratio between the mean square values of the between and the within group values, which talks about, which gives us the F test value. And significance, it is showing less than 0.05. That means there is a significant difference between the groups or among the different banks. With respect to what my bank offers efficient core banking system, so opinion of the different bank customers is varying, and they are telling their bank is offering best service, their bank is offering best service. Like that, you can find the significant difference among the customers' opinion with respect to the bank service offers efficient core banking system. And here you can see in the graph that itself, you can see that one bank, this is the HDFC, United Bank of India, ICICI. You can see that all are with a different, whereas with the HSBC and the HDFC almost with the same, the height, okay, with the degree of the mean plots, whereas the SBI with the high, whereas with these two ICICI and the Canara Bank with the almost near. So now I want to check that whether all are with the same or any commonality of with respect to this service. Okay. So for this, what I'll do, I'll go with post hoc test. So I'll just go with the last part, that is analyze. Analyze, then compare means one way ANOVA. Naren, you check the mobile. Yeah. So here now I'm selecting the post hoc. In the post hoc, you need to select one test, that is a Sheffe test, SCHEFFE, which is helping us to identify the commonality among the different groups. That is a homogeneity. Then just doing a check of this, and with the significance of 0.05, I'm just giving continue. And again giving OK. So once again, there's a repetition of this, all the data. So I'll just start from the post hoc test. You can see the post hoc test. You can find my bank offers efficient core banking system. So here in the post hoc test, what you'll find, there's a comparison from one bank with the other banks, pairwise. HDFC with the United Bank of India, HDFC with the ICICI, HDFC with the SBI, HDFC with the Canara Bank, HDFC with the Standard Chartered, HDFC with the HSBC. So this will help us to identify that which is having significant difference, which is not having significant difference, or whether both are offering the same service, means the customer's opinion is same or not. So this I can easily understand by this multiple comparisons under the Sheffield test. You can see that just directly go through this significance value. I'll give the example. HDFC with the United Bank, what is the significance value is more than 0.05. That means no significant difference of services experienced by the customers between the HDFC and the United. HDFC with the ICICI, no, 0.987. See, all are more than 0.05. That means HDFC is having the same services, is offering the same services like other banks. With respect to what? Efficient core banking system. Now let me compare United Bank of India with the other banks. You can find one interesting, that is with the 0.029. Here HDFC compared with others. Now we are taking United Bank of India with the others. United Bank of India is showing one with the Canara SBI Bank. SBI Bank is showing, so the services with respect to what? With respect to technology, the bank offers efficient core banking system. So there is significant difference of opinion between the Union Bank of India and the SBI. That means SBI is maybe offering a better service compared to the United Bank of India, and this may be an interesting result for the researcher to give a suggestion or recommend the United Bank of India. See, Baba, you go and compare your services with respect to technology advancement services offering to your customers by comparing with the SBI Bank, what it is offering to its customers. Like that, the others are no differences. Coming to the ICICI, no differences with the other banks. And if I take, yes, Standard Chartered Bank, if you take with the SBI, 0.014. So this is also having significant difference. So like that, we can go further insights here to check that which pair is offering the common services, which pair is significantly different based on the p-value here. Another important, interesting with the Sheffield test is here homogeneous subsets. Now I want to check that among the 7 banks, which with respect to this, my bank offers efficient core bank system, whether they are offering the better service compared to the other, or which group of the banks are offering the poor services, which group of banks are offering the better services. You can see here with respect to the Standard Chartered, United Bank of India, Canara Bank, they are offering, and also ICICI, they are offering poor services, okay, compared to this. What is that? HSBC, HDFC, SBI. Like that, the subset of alpha at 5% level, you can find under the homogeneous subsets, you can find here the 2 groups were made, and that it is easily helps to identify which group of banks are offering the poor service, which group of banks are offering the better services. So that you can compare easily, you can identify. And the mean plots, based on this, we can again come to a conclusion that yes, there is you can see here, as I said, HDFC and HSBC, you can see here HDFC and HSBC with the 4.04, 4.08, and even the SBI, which is a little bit more than this. So they're all with the top, means they are with the high the rating by the customer with respect to the core system of service they are offering, whereas with the here United Bank of India and Standard Chartered, they are very less poor services they are offering. You can see here United Bank and Standard Chartered with the poor services. See, like that, the homogeneity will be done, the groups will be done like in factor analysis. So here groups will be created under the Sheffield test. So that way we can use this post hoc test. Okay, you can do this post hoc test, and we can do only if we find there is significant difference among the different independent variables. If you are finding the significant difference, you can see here we found significant difference 0.001. If it is not significant, then you cannot apply the post hoc test. So this is about the analysis, and the researcher can do a better interpretation based on the objectives or the hypothesis he framed, and he can prove with respect to the different significance level also. So this is about the one way ANOVA with the post hoc analysis, and that's all my presentation. Any questions with respect to the tools we use?
Thank you very much, Somsekhar sir.
Thank you, Srinath.
There is one question from participant.
Yeah.
One sample test is done only to check normality.
No, for all we can do, we have to do, because we are assuming parametric test means we are assuming that our data is normally distributed. So we have to do all, whether we are doing one sample, two sample, or paired test. If the variable is normally distributed, then our assumptions are correct, and we can go ahead with the further analysis. So just show the sample with respect to the one sample, and I just move with the further steps in the other statistical tools.
For all normal distribution, we can go for parametric test. If the distribution, is not normal or arbitrary, we can go for non-parametric test.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And some cases, as the assumptions, because the difference between parametric and non-parametric, we are assuming the data is normally distributed. If the sample size is less, so we are assuming the data is normally distributed, and if the sample size is high, so automatically the normal distribution curve will appear, sir. So as the sample size is more, so automatically the respondents' opinions leads to the normal curve, sir. That's what to avoid these errors. So normally researchers has to prefer the higher sample size. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your valuable inputs on parametric test using SPSS. Thank you once again, and thank you all the participants. We'll meet tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Srinath.
Please
Thank
fill
you
the
all
feedback form.
Thank you all the participants. If any doubts are there, feel free to communicate us.
Dear participants, please fill the feedback form.
Sir Somsekhar, give the email address because somebody has got a question. So
Okay,
could you please explain the last table post hoc test interpretation?
Okay,
Give the email ID, sir.
Yes, I'm writing here.
Participants,
So,
please
Somsekhar,
go
sir,
to
just mention in the chat box, sir.
Yes,
So
yes,
that,
yes. Yes, Professor Srinath, I am writing somashekar@vvce.ac.in. So this is my mail ID. Also my contact number 9141306148. I request the participant to feel free to discuss, because we are we are discussing only with the basic statistical tools that is under the parametric, and it will help you in even while publishing the articles also.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And my one request to all the participants is that I shared extra the data sets also, as all these videos will be shared with you all, and we'll share the PPT also. Please do practice, and any doubts are there, please feel free to drop in the group also. We'll consider your valuable inputs. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all.